Bava Kamma daf chaf tes continues the Gemara's discussion of what happens when somebody had a jug and it broke and it left water and shards in Rosh Hashanah and somebody got hurt by it. Who is responsible for it? As we've seen in our Mishnah, there was a machlokes between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Meir said the person who broke the jug, the person who owned the jug and it broke is chayev for whoever gets injured by the water or by the shards. And Rabbi Yehuda said that's only if he's miskaven. If he's not miskaven, then he's pater. So the argument is over not miskaven. So the Gemara wants to know now, what is not miskaven? What is the case of not miskaven to break the jug where he didn't have in mind for it? So the Gemara is going to consider three levels. Level one would be that miskaven means that he intended to smash the jug, and anything less than that, less intentional than that, would be not miskaven. Level two would be that he intended to lower the jug from his shoulder. He intended to move it, and it accidentally hit the wall and smashed. That would be intent to move, but not intent to smash. And then the last level would be that he didn't do anything. It just kind of disintegrated in his hands. Now, the Gemara begins by quoting Rava, and Rava says that miskaven is the middle level, where he intended to lower it and it accidentally hit the wall and smashed. That's where Rabbi Yehuda is mechayev. Obviously, then not miskaven, which is where there's a machlokes, is a level above that, and that would be where it actually disintegrated in his hands. So the Gemara says, how could it be that that's the machlokes? Why would Rabbi Meir say that you're chayev in a case like that? You're completely anitis. Now, how do you know that you're pater on anitis? The Gemara brings the source from the case of a man who's ma'anes, a woman. She's responsible. If she took part willingly, she's responsible. But if she was forced, she's not responsible because she's in itis. And it says, so the Gemara says, maybe you'll tell me that is concerning a sin which carries the death penalty. So you'll see she doesn't get the death penalty because she was considered to be an itis. But as far as Nezikin, maybe for Nezikin, you are responsible even for Einstein. No, they can't be. I'm going to show you that Rabbi Meir holds you're pater for Nezikin that are Einstein. The Gemara brings a brisa. Raisa says if somebody's jug broke and he didn't clean it up, or if his camel fell and he didn't pick him up, so the machlokes if somebody gets injured by that. Rabbi Meir says you're chayiv for the hesek, and the Chachamim say you're pater. You're chayiv din shemayim though, as we shall see later. Why? Because you should have removed him. So it's a grama really, but you're pater in dini other. So the machlokes are Meir and the Chachamim if you're pater about it. Now the brisa continues and it says that there's a case where each one agrees. The Chachamim agreed to Rabbi Meir if you are responsible for the fact that the thing is in the street. So if it was a stone, a knife, or a package that was on the roof and it fell in Ruach Matsuya, you could have prevented that. And if it caused the damage because of that, the Rabbanan agreed you're responsible. In the case where Rabbi Meir agrees to the Rabbanan is where you're completely in Einus, you left a container on the roof in order to let it dry out, let the things that are in it dry, and it was a Ruach She'enim Matsuya, meaning you had a logical reason for leaving it there, and you could not have anticipated the very strong wind that was going to come, and therefore, if it caused the damage, you are not responsible for that. So that's because of an Einstein. So you see clearly that Rabbi Meir agrees that you're pater for Einstein. So if Meir agrees that you're pater for Einstein, why would level 3, the case where the jug literally disintegrated in your hand, why would you be responsible for the water that's there on the floor? So the Gemara therefore adjusted and says no. The case of miskaven is where you intended to smash it. That's where everyone agrees that you are chayiv. The case where they're arguing is the case of where you were lowering it. You just were moving the jug and it accidentally hit the wall. The machlokes between Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim is if you're shlamazel, is that considered to be a pushay or not? If you smashed it, if you were trying to lower it from your shoulder and instead you crashed it into the wall, should you have been more careful or not? According to Rabbi Meir, you're responsible for that with what's called niskal pushayahu. Your smashing it accidentally is a pushaya, you're chayiv for that. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you're not chayiv for that, you're only chayiv where you smashed it intentionally. Now, Abaye says this, and then Abaye says there's also another machlokes that is related to this that we see in this Mishnah, and that's what happens after it's smashed. So it's there on the floor. What was your reaction? So if you cleaned it up, okay. If you left it there, and you should have cleaned it up, you're for sure chayiv for it. The question is, what happens if you were mafkir it? You made it hefker, you said, you know what, this is here, I'm not taking responsibility for it, it's hefker. So according to Rabbi Meir, you're chayiv for it. He holds that you're chayiv if you're mavkir, you're nizikin if you leave something in the street, and you're mavkir, you're still chayiv for that. That's just like a bar the Torah is mechayiv for, even if it's not yours. And Rabbi Yehuda disagrees, and Rabbi Yehuda says, no, you're pater if you're mafkeret. Now, explains the Gemara, why do we say here that there's two machlekes? So the Gemara says, because our Mishnah had two cases. It spoke about where the jug smashed and someone got injured by the water or got injured by the shards. Why have to talk about two things? It's the same halacha. It should be all the same rules. The reason why we have to mention two is because one is talking about where you got injured as it fell, and therefore it's showing the responsibility of the person for the etzem fact that it broke. And the other one is where after it fell and it's lying there, that's his responsibility because he should have cleaned it up. And those are two separate halachas. The water hurt him as it was breaking, and the shards were there on the floor. Someone came and stepped on it and got hurt from it afterwards. Now, the Gemara says, so let's look at the brisa we just quoted about Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan, talking about the guy who broke a jug or his camel fell. If our Mishnah is talking about two cases, two halachos, that brisa should also be talking about two cases and two halachos. Each of those two, how do you have a situation where it caused the damage as it was breaking, as it was falling, and after it was lying there? So the case of the jug, I understand, same as our Mishnah, could hurt somebody as it's smashed, and it can hurt somebody after it's lying on the floor. But the case of the camel, somebody's walking with his camel and the camel fell, how are you responsible for the fact that the camel fall? If it hurt somebody as it fell, it's not your responsibility. You can't prevent the camel from falling. Animals fall. Now, that you're responsible for what happens afterwards, that would be if the camel fell and he died, and you left him there. And you were mafker the nevela, so you made it hefker. Now we have the same machlekes. Are you responsible for your property that is now in the middle of the street that you were mafker? Okay, but why are you responsible for him falling? Samar says we have to come up with a case where it's your fault that he fell. So what's that? Samar tries a few options here. So first says Rav Acha that you drove him through the water. The road was flooded. You drove him through it. That was a pshia. You should not have done that. He fell. You're responsible for that. So Gemara says, what's the case? If there was another route, then he's a poshea. Why'd he go through there? So it's not called, there shouldn't be any reason that the Rabbanan would even say that he's not chayiv. If there's no other route, he's an einus. So even Rabbi Meir should agree that he's pater. So says Gemara, no, the situation is that the man tripped, and the camel tripped on him. So it's his shlamazlkite that made the camel fall in the first place. Now the Gemara rounds out this discussion by saying, in the Mishnah it said that Rav Yehuda says you're chayiv for miskaven, and you're pater for any miskaven. If you're telling me that this machlokes is also talking about where hezek was called after it fell, just from lying on the floor, what is the miskaven, any miskaven there? Where is the any miskaven that he agrees you're pater, and what's the miskaven there chayiv? So Gemara says that's what we mean when we say that the whole machlokes is about hefker. If you are miskaven to keep it, so it's not hefker. And there he agrees that you're chayiv. If you're einoi miskaven, that means to say that you're mafkeret, and you're not miskaven to keep it. And that's the case in which Rabbi Yehuda says you're pater for the hezek that's caused after nefila. Now, the Gemara notes that Abaye had said that the machlokes was twofold. There's machlokes as it's falling and after it falls. Marcos of Elazar says that there's a machlokes as it's falling. Gemara says and after it fell there's no machlokes, but we just says machlokes between Rav Meir and the Rabbanan. So there is a machlokes after it falls. How can you tell me there's no machlokes after it falls? So Gemara says what Rabbi Elazar means is that there's also machlokes as it's falling, and he's saying the same as Abaye, the machlokes exist in both cases. Now the Gemara discusses Rav Yechanan's version. Rav Yechanan said the machlokes is after it falls. The Gemara says you mean to say that the machlokes Tanaim, which is Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, or we could call them Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan, is only after it falls. But if it causes a damage as it's falling, what's the halacha? So we have Rabbi Yechanan later who says that our Mishnah is not Rabbi Meir, who says that a niskal is a poisheya, that the one who smashes a kli is a poisheya, that's not the Mishnah. So that clearly indicates that there is a machlokes if smashing the kli as you're trying to lower it is a poisheya or not, because we're saying that it doesn't fit with Rabbi Meir who says that it is a poisheya. So if there is a machlokes, then he can't be telling me that everyone agrees what halacha is if it causes a damage as it smashes. So what do you mean then when he says that the machlokes is after it falls? So he explains what it means to say is the machlokes about a kli or an object in the middle of the street that you're mafkir is only if it got there by falling. It's only after it falls. If you put something in the middle of the street and you say, okay, I'm mafkir, and you walk away, that's you complete posheya. You don't get away with that. No one holds at your putter for that. The only way that there's even discussion is if it broke. It got there by accident. And then you throw up your hands and you say, I can't deal with this, and you mafkir it. There is an opinion that says Yapater. And that's why he says the machlokes is after it breaks. The Gemara now goes deeper into this subject. What happens if someone takes his property without an inus, he puts it in the street and he's mafkir it? Is he chayiv for injuries or damage that someone suffers because of that? So the Gemara says it's machlokes Rav Yechanan and Rav Elazar. One says he chayiv for it, one says he not chayiv for it. Now the Gemara says, should we say that this is the same as the machlokes Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim as to what happens if somebody, his kli breaks and he leaves it in the street, or his camel falls and he leaves it in the street and he's mafkir and he chayiv there? So Gemara says no, it's not the same machlokes. The difference is that in that case it got there ba'inus, like we just said. In that case it got there ba'inus, and here it got there on purpose without an inus. So Rabbi Meir, who says that you're chayiv in the case where it got there ba'inus, would certainly say that you're chayiv here. No shaila. Neither of these two Amoraim would say that. The machlokes is in the opinion of the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan say you're potter there. Is that because it was ba'inus? But if you would put it down and be mafkir, you'd be chayiv. Or what we say, no, the same machlokes applies whether you put it there on purpose or it got there ba'inus. The Rabbanan would still say that you are potter for it because you're mafkir. Now, we said it's machlokes of Rav Elazar and Rav Yechanan. We didn't say which one is which. So the Gemara says, let's try to bring a proof that Rav Elazar is the one who says that you're chayiv for it. That is, you're chayiv for it even though it's not in your property because you were mafkir. So Rav Elazar says, name Rav Yishmael, there are two things which a person does not own, but the Torah considers it as if he does own it. And that's a bar b'shas harabim, a hole you made in the public domain, and chametz after 6 hours into the day on Erev Pesach. It's also b'hana, so it's hefker, but the Torah makes it as if you own it, and you are violating by Rabbi Yamotze the isser of owning chametz. Now, from the fact that he says you're chayiv for the bar and shazarabim, shows you that from the fact that he says the Torah considers like you own it, shows that he holds you are chayiv for the bar, even if you don't own it, it's considered like you own it, and therefore he would be the one that says you're chayiv if you're mafkir. The Gemara asks, though, you telling me that Rav Elazar is the one who says that you're chayiv for this property that you're mafkir and shazarabim. The problem is we see that Rav Elazar says otherwise. We have a mission that says if somebody finds a gull, he finds a dung in the street, and he turns it over, meaning he moves it, and someone else comes and is damaged by it, the person who moved is responsible for the damage that happened to the other, meaning it becomes his problem. And on that, Rav Elazar commented, and he said it's only if he was miskaving to be zeichen, he made it his. So that indicates if he was not miskaving to make it his, he would be potter for it. So you see, if you mafkir something, even though he moved it, but if he's mafkir it, and he does not intend for it to become his, he is potter. So how are we saying here that he's chayv? So Gemara says there it's very different. There it was never his. When he picks it up and he puts it back down exactly where it was, then he didn't do anything. Whatever he did to it is undone, and it goes back to its original state, and that's why he has no connection to it. So Rav Ava says that the case is where you put it back exactly the way it was. So Ravina asked, I'll give you a mashal to what Rav Ava said. It's somebody who finds a bar, a real one, a hole in the ground, open and exposed. And he comes and he covers it up so that it's protected, and then he uncovers it. So now he didn't do anything. He just put it back the way it was. The fact that he covered it would have been good, but he's now fine. He uncovered it, but he's not responsible for it now. The original person who made the bar, it's his bar. The temporary covering doesn't make the second person responsible for it when he uncovers it. So Gemara asks, no, that's not a good mashal. If that would be a good mashal, you'd be right. That's why he wouldn't be responsible for it, but it's not really what's happening. The better mashal is if he fills it in and he digs it again, because by doing that, he has undone the previous bar. The first bar is gone, and now he made a new bar. There, the second, he's responsible for digging the bar from scratch. In this case, also where he picks it up, it becomes his, or even if it's not his, he's mafkir, and even puts it back exactly where it was. The fact that he moved it away makes it that it was his, and therefore if he's mafkir again, he should still be responsible. So we're back to the kasha. Why would Rav Elazar say that you're potter in a case like that? So Gemara answers that he picked it up less than 3 tvachim, and therefore it's not a real kin. He wasn't kainin at all. And it's not that he was mafkir, he was never chalkin in the first place. Now, if he had kavana to be zeicha in it, so then he would be kainin. There's an opinion that says we have kavana or kaina even less than 3 tvachim, then it would be his responsibility. But we're talking where he didn't pick it up more than 3 tvachim, and therefore it's dependent on his kavana. If he didn't have kavana, he was never kaina in it, and it's not because he was mafkir, it's because it was never his. So Mara asks, why would Rav Elazar say that the case is where it was less than 3 tvachim? And it depends on what his kavanah was. Say that it was more than 3 tvachim, and it doesn't depend on what his kavanah is. Say that he's responsible for it because the case is where it was more than 3 tvachim. To that, the Gemara answers the language of the Mishnah was funny. The Mishnah said he turned over the dough. He turned it over. So he picked it up. Turning it over implies that it was less than 3 tvachim. Okay, so we've established that Rav Elazar is the one who says chayiv if you're mafkir your property that you leave in Rishus Harabim. That means that Rav Yochanan is the one who says potter. So Gemara has 2 kashas on saying that Rav Yochanan holds that you're potter for leaving a property in Rishus Harabim. One is a Mishnah that says somebody who conceals thorns or broken glass in Rishus Harabim, or he makes a fence on the edge of Rishus Harabim made out of thorns, or if his fence falls into Rishus Harabim and causes one to become damaged by it, he's chayiv for all this nezik that he causes. That's the Mishnah. And about the fence, Rav Yochanan says as follows: you only chayiv if the thorns stick into Rishus Harabim. However, if you pull it into within your own rishus, so that the thorns are in your property and not in Rishus Harabim, then you're potter for it. Says Gemara, why are you potter? It must be because although you made a dangerous bar, it's in your own property. So that seems to indicate that had it been in Rishus Harabim, you would be chayiv for it. So you see, a bar in Rishus Harabim, you are chayiv for, even though bar Rishus Harabim would not be yours. So you see that somebody is mafkir is nechazim, you're chayiv for. So how does it fit with what we're learning here? The Rav Yochanan says that if your bar is in Rishus Harabim and you're mafkir, you are potter on it. So the Gemara answers no. Either I'll tell you that somebody who's mafkir's property in Rishus Harabim is potter. Why does this person have to pull into his rishus to be mafkirit, to be potter from it? Because Rav Acha said because people don't usually rub against the wall, and this person rubbed against the wall, so that's mishuna. Now, the Gemara's second kasha on the idea that Rav Yochanan says that you're potter in Rishus Harabim and that a bar is only in Rishus Yachid is from a Mishnah that says somebody who digs a bar in Rishus Harabim and inside falls a shor or a chamar and dies, he chayiv for it. So you see clearly, he says you are chayiv for a bar in Rishus Harabim. So the Gemara says, okay, you're right. Rav Yochanan holds you chayiv. If you put something in Rishus Harabim, you're mafkir, you're chayiv. Rav Elazar is the one who says you're potter. Rav Elazar said in the name of Rabbi Shmuel, which we brought before, that it's not yours, but the Torah makes it like yours. That's Rabbi Shmuel Shita. He's quoting Rabbi Shmuel. He, however, does not agree with his Rabbi on that halacha.